we have these crossroads. And you know, either way you choose, your life is going to be different.
The universe doesn't exist, but God thinks it does.
We have to stop consuming our culture. We have to create culture.
Stupidity has a definite evolutionary function. I am all for abolishing stupidity, but before it goes, we should pay tribute to it.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Nonsense Bazaar. I'm sorry. No, I'm Sequoia Kennedy. Sorry.
I'm sorry, too.
Who are you?
I'm Willow Truman.
Excellent. I don't know what this episode's about.
Yeah, you've been suffering a lot this week.
Is it about Hyperstition? Is it about the CCRU? Is it about Nick Land? Is it about the Lemurian Time War? I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
You prepared this one.
What I do know is that every single podcast that I listened to in researching this to try and get a feel for just what I was researching, the hosts immediately regret trying to talk about this shit. They're all confused. No one is any smarter in the end, and you can feel them just getting so tired.
Yeah.
We're going into the depths of madness today.
Oh boy, I feel like I thrive there.
Good, because you're going to need to help me. I'm getting
Okay.
sleepy already. It's not in like a, this is a boring way. It's in like an overload way, like I'm overheating.
We can handle it.
The deepest, darkest depths of madness.
Oh, excellent.
Into the only material I have ever read that made me fear for my own sanity. This shit is so fucked. And like it comes out of like philosophers at a philosophy department at a university in England.
Okay.
Right? So it's like got all that academic philosophy language.
Yeah.
Like that real post-structuralist hullabaloo, gobbledygook.
Like
Yeah, dude.
$5 words.
Oh, so many. They're so expensive. I had this, a friend of mine, a girl who's, she's big into the philosophy. I needed help understand some things. So I sent her this stuff. Never talk to me again.
Yep.
Never talk to me again.
That's the effect of Nick Land upon your life.
Actually, that was true when I wrote. It's not true anymore.
Yeah.
It was true when I wrote this, but it was like the next day that I wrote it. It's just a really funny thing to say.
It is.
Yeah.
She never talked to me.
Never talk to me again.
Yeah.
So what the fuck are we talking about? We're talking about time sorcery.
Oh, good.
We're talking about weaponized fiction.
Oh, good.
We're talking about Hyperstition, the cybernetic culture research unit, Accelerationism, the stupid goddamn fucking pneumogram, and the heat-fucked chaos himself, Nick Land.
Oh, boy.
A piece of shit so creepy that he's gone beyond being a great villain for our pantheon. Like, I'm never talking about him again after this.
Yeah, that's it. Closing the book.
I hate his fucking vibe so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's something about it. I hate horror movies, dude.
That's
I hate
true.
them. Yeah. I got freaked out when you given me a synopsis of a horror movie earlier.
I know, you had to tell me to stop.
Yeah, it was not good. It was not good. I mean, and we're talking about the Lemurian Time War. And Karl Marx is going to show up too a little bit.
Yay.
Because this is literally what happens when you mix Theosophy with Marxism. It's not good.
Yay.
So let's do our tarot poll.
Yes, let's. What we got?
10 of Cups.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's the rainbow one?
That is the rainbow one in Rider-Waite-Smith deck. The imagery on the Rider-Waite-Smith deck is actually really interesting for a couple reasons. It's not necessarily a good card. It's not as positive as it seems to be in the Rider-Waite-Smith.
Right.
And especially that shows quite prominently in the Thoth deck. It goes along with the Golden Dawn interpretations of it.
Is that one of the stage cards?
It is. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to sound stupid.
No, I mean, you're not looking at it either.
Yeah.
No, it's the happy family under the rainbow with
Right.
10 cups, but it's what's referred to as a stage card. There's certain minor arcana cards in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck that for some reason take place on what looks to be a stage.
Right. They're not standing. It doesn't look like green grass.
Right.
It looks like a brown stage.
Yeah. There's different interpretations of why that is. I tend to subscribe to the idea that it's a illusion of something in all of those. In the Thoth deck, the 10 of Cups it shows very clearly cups overflowing. The name of the card is satiety. It's when you're full and the cycle has to start again. Yeah. It's like when you destroy a marriage because you're bored.
Yeah.
Is kind of the 10 of Cups.
Excellent for accelerationism.
Accelerationism, yeah. And sort of maybe the problems I have with philosophy in general. Navel gazing.
Yeah, it's also dressed up.
Yeah, it's
also performative.
Yeah, and it's fucking impotent. It's really, it's just getting wrapped, especially like the Marxist post-structuralist, like which is kind of hyper-materialist, realist philosophies. Like that's concept of like any sort of divinity or like stranger metaphysics, like isn't part of that. Which is, I think, that's why I have a big problem with it and what I would attribute its flaws to, but you can't reason that out. I'm sorry, Thomas Aquinas, but you can't. Like, I don't know any other philosophers of that.
Me either. Caliber. This is a weak area for me. Yeah.
Well, so, I called Nick Land a piece of shit earlier, but I love him, actually. You know why? Because he completely validates my decision to drop out of college during the first year of my philosophy degree.
Look at what might have happened to you.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. I dodged a bullet. I'm the smart one. I didn't make a huge expensive mistake.
No, you didn't.
I dodged a bullet.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, so the CCRU was a counterculture writer group.
Yeah,
started in the mid-90s. The Cybernetic Culture Research Unit. Group of they wouldn't use the word postmodern, but they're like postmodern writers are this philosophy department. And through them, it was headed during the most important part relevant to our story, not most important, by a dude named Nick Land, who is seen as the father of Accelerationism, which is a terrible philosophy that advocates taking the brakes off capitalism and letting it run to what is seen as its inevitable end. Right? And that's been co-opted by a lot of far-right fuckers and shit. And it's not a good philosophy even in the beginning, but it actually comes out of Marxist tendencies, and even Karl Marx even has a quote about since capitalism will inevitably destroy itself, maybe it's a revolutionary act to just let it go.
Yeah, we gotta get to the 7th golden age.
Essentially, yeah.
It reminds me a lot of that, honestly.
Even fucking Marxists, dude, they'll deny this to the end, but they are the most eschatological fuckers I've ever met. I can't see it. I've never heard a damn one explain to me what happens after the revolution. I don't think they can. Well,
I wouldn't know.
It's actually not about that. It's actually Marxism is a critical philosophy. It's only critiquing capitalism, so it shouldn't be a be-all, end-all. It should be a part of the overall toolkit. And if you consider it to be a part of the overall toolkit, well, then Marx is actually really important, and you should probably fucking read it.
There you go. Don't send us any angry emails.
Never, ever send me an email about Karl Marx. I will kick your fucking ass. I swer to God.
I'll
never do that.
Find you.
Yeah,
And
do
we
not
have a
do
boot.
that.
We have a special boot for kicking
I'll
asses.
buy 2 more for Karl Marx.
Yeah,
That's enough about Karl Marx.
it is.
Yes. I was trying to give an overall background
Good.
of
Thank
where
you.
we're...
I appreciated that.
And there's a lot more, and I don't know a lot of the philosophy language. I don't know a lot of these philosophers.
You know what? Probably a lot of people don't.
I know.
So we're gonna explain it from a different perspective.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But why are we talking? We didn't even get to why we're talking about it.
Why?
Because this group of philosophers and fiction authors
Are they
created...
gonna open up the gate?
Yeah.
Shit.
We're not going to open up the gate. But they created their own magical system and this idea of what's called a hyperstition. A hyperstition is, I feel like there's both academics and magicians who look at the idea of the hyperstition and go, that's fucking wild, right? Because it's actually considered a pretty interesting idea to talk about amongst like philosophers of a certain bent.
Okay.
Right? And a hyperstition is broadly defined, and we're going to define this thing like 10 times throughout this episode. But a hyperstition is a fiction that makes itself real.
Okay.
Right? A superstition is something that is something not true that has a real effect.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A hyperstition is something not true that has a real effect, but that real effect serves to actualize the hyperstition, serves to bring the fiction into reality.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, you know what that made me think of immediately?
What's that?
There's this fucking Netflix documentary about don't fuck with cats or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Where the internet, like, decides that they're going to solve the crime.
Yeah.
And they finger the wrong guy for it. And they all start, like, going after this one guy and accusing him. And this, I think he killed himself.
Oh, fuck.
So it's like, that is an effect of a fiction having a real effect. It's in a different way.
Yeah.
Because these, it's not like they were writing a story intending it to become real, but it does show the way that an unreality can affect reality in a very tangible way.
It can. Stories do things.
Yeah.
As I have said to you privately, and I will say at least 5 more times throughout this podcast.
That's why it doesn't matter if God's real or not.
That's right. Which is another way of thinking about Pascal's wager, and I would say a smarter way than the original.
Mm-hmm.
Pascal's wager is kind of dumb. I hate philosophy. I fucking hate it.
I don't even know who Pascal is.
Pascal's wager is the argument for belief in God that works out this like decision box that's like, okay, if you believe in God and you die and there's no God, well, then you're just nothingness. If you don't believe in God and you die and there's no God, then there's just nothingness, right? If you believe in God and you die and there's a God, you go to heaven. If you don't believe in God and you die and there's a God, you go to hell. So from a gambler's perspective, it is
safer
always
to not believe.
No, it's safer to believe.
Oh,
but that's a dog shit argument for believing in God. Is that like this is just dumb. This is bad. It's like
yeah, it's not. No.
And okay, so
Hyperstition.
Yes,
Fiction that
makes itself real
effect.
through a feedback loop, so that the effect that the fiction has doesn't just make someone do something. It makes someone do something that feeds back into the system and makes the fiction stronger, so that it can make more people do that until it actualizes itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's also a time traveling device.
Cool.
You can't
makes
just
sense to me.
God damn it! I should just pawned all this off on you. Right? Just tell me what the hell's going on. It's also a time traveling device. It works acausally through time, changing the past to create the conditions needed to bring it about. Now, okay, just accept that for now. Just accept it.
Yeah.
I'll talk about what that could mean later on, but just accept that. Hyperstition is a time traveling fiction that makes itself real.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty cool thing to talk about.
Yeah.
The magical system that comes out of it, along with its own like version of the Kabbalistic tree of life. That's just this weird math trick called the pneumogram. But that's also, it should be interesting from a like, okay, this is a new magical system discovered out of math rules is essentially what it
Yeah, that
to be.
sounds cool.
Okay. So that's why we're talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to. But man, it's mire. So
yeah, on the surface, it all sounds like, oh, that's interesting.
And then you start researching it. And then you start fearing that you're going to lose your goddamn mind. So let's start at the end with someone who did lose his goddamn mind.
Okay.
Nick Land. Where is he now? Shanghai. Why? Don't know and I don't care.
Oh.
Who is he? Nick Land is a philosopher who's considered to be the father of accelerationism. Accelerationism is a philosophy born out of Marxist and postmodern pathological obsessions with capitalism as the only thing that matters in the world. In a nutshell, accelerationism sees capitalism as essentially self-destructive and sees the only way to the promised land, utopia, dystopia, the fucking immanentized eschaton, is to take the brakes off capitalism and let it spin itself to self-destruction through a positive feedback loop. Afterwards, it, is the promise, hope, dream, nightmare of basically the next root race, right?
Yeah.
But it's hyperintelligence.
Okay.
Artificial hyperintelligence.
Okay.
And here is where Nick Land gets weird in a way that I don't think people really understand. But I heard his ass say that. I didn't pull the clip because I'm repulsed. So I had a hard time sticking with. So Nick Land, this insane amphetamine casualty, does not see this hyperintelligence as what we would consider AI. And he doesn't consider it like transhumanism. Because Nick Land does not believe that intelligence and consciousness need be intertwined.
Oh.
In fact, Nick Land doesn't see any redeeming qualities to consciousness itself. And in his mind, freedom means also freedom from consciousness.
Yeah.
In total annihilation and subsummation into machine existence, into the fucking apotheosis of capital itself.
Oh my God. No thinkies.
Just machine.
Yeah.
Just machine producing.
Yeah.
Dude, that's where he's at.
Yeah.
It's repulsive. It's fucking so insane. He talks a lot about gray goo.
Yeah, of
I swear to
course.
fucking God, dude. It is.
Of course.
Oh.
There's this other guy, Harold Kautz Vela, who has done a lot of lectures about black goo and AI takeover stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So that's an accurate analysis of a worldview of a dude who technically gets to call himself a philosopher and not a Batman villain. The only reason Nick Land is not a comic book villain is because philosophy is impotent.
Now, a question about the gray goo.
Sure.
Is it made out of nanobots or what is it?
Capital.
Okay.
Capital C, capital in a Marxist sense. I don't fucking understand. I don't think he played a fucking logic joke on himself and just did too many drugs.
Yeah.
And that's really important to understand. Nick Land is a crazy person.
Right. I'm trying to make sense out of something that
you cannot.
There's no. Okay. Yeah.
You cannot. And anyone who says otherwise is fooling themselves.
Pretending.
Yeah. Because they like the aesthetics. And that's another problem. All this bullshit academic talk I've been running into, these explanations of concepts only through name checks and citing philosophers that came before you. This in a Deleuze and Guattarian sense and blah blah blah. The only way you can understand or refute an argument is by spending 20 fucking years reading other motherfuckers who are also doing the same con job instead of actually doing anything with your life. You know what I mean? You can't argue with them because you're not speaking the same fucking language.
Mm-hmm.
But they could call themselves philosophers. And it's this liar's poker that, these academics are playing this time, instead of the theosophists.
I was going to say, it's like a magic trick.
Yes, exactly.
It's like a glamour spell. You can't argue with me because I'm putting you in a stupor with my big words.
Right, dude.
Fancy
academic
words.
And dude, it is a truism. And there's no concept on earth that this is not true for. If you can't explain it simply, you do not understand it.
Yeah.
That's it. It might be a complicated concept, but you can explain it using little words.
Yep.
So anyone who's smart and starts using $5 words, they're trying to con you every time. Mm-hmm. Every fucking time. And it is liar's poker because these people haven't done the reading because no one has. Because there's not enough years in a human lifespan to read all of
to be
the
a walking
philosopher's
encyclopedia. Yeah.
And this is what keeps Nick Land from having to state in plain English that he jerks off to the paintings of H.R. Geiger. Because that's all it is. That's That's all it is.
They are kind of sexy, if you're into that.
So that's accelerationism.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Nick Land wasn't always like this. No.
My God.
Once upon a time, Nick Land was an experimental postmodern fiction author and lecturer interested in time sorcery and the mechanics of reality itself. And what he found would melt his brain like something out of a Lovecraft novel. A truth that makes the magical work of the Cybernetic Culture Research Unit that much more frightening. I'm just kidding. It's silly. It's absolutely silly. It's not that frightening. And dare I say, it's pretty cool. Yeah. But what we're really looking at with the CCRU is the story of how amphetamines, magic, and experimental fiction drove a motherfucker insane. And continues to drive motherfuckers insane to this day. So.
But not you.
Not you.
You're holding it together.
Me.
Not you and not the listener.
Right. Yeah, I'm doing fine.
I don't know. I'm not convinced.
Yeah, me neither. So, CCRU, Cybernetic Culture Research Unit. What do I mean by cybernetics? Generally, when you hear the term cybernetics, what do you think of?
I think of something that's combining organic with technology, like human and
like a cyborg.
Technology. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Or like a computer stuck in a tree.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do they mean it in that way?
No.
Okay.
We usually hear the term cybernetics in the context of computers.
Yeah.
But cybernetics is a term much older than computers. Cybernetics is the study of systems, and specifically systems of control.
Do we know the root of the word cyber?
We do. It's Greek.
I'm just always interested to know.
The word cybernetics comes from Greek kybernetikos, meaning governance. And kyber.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder if,
meaning to steer, navigate, or govern.
Yeah. Or if the psi part of it is like the same that like cycle comes from, or.
Oh, I don't know about that. Cybernetique was first coined by French physicist and mathematician André-Marie Ampère. Can never pronounce French. In his 1834 essay. So well before computers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was describing the science of civil government. And it seems like the term was used by Norbert Wiener in his book Cybernetics to define the study of control and communication in the animal and the machine. Yeah, so it's systems thinking. And I didn't, systems of control and communication. I didn't know this till recently. I was first exposed to these ideas through Pennyroyal. And if anyone's listened to that podcast, that happened, takes quite a turn when they're exposed to this shit as well. Because like a lot of the people in the paranormal field, like the field of cybernetics is so linked with the paranormal.
Yeah.
So much deeper than Nick Land and the CCRU. It's this field of study that intersects with tons of the people we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
They've all spoke at like cybernetics conferences and shit. Jacques Vallée's whole idea of the phenomenon as systems, as a control system.
Yeah.
Because he's like one of the people first working on the internet back in the day. He's a computer scientist and shit. He was deeply interested in this stuff. So yeah, and there's this other term called second order cybernetics. Like first order cybernetics is like the system of control. Second order cybernetics refers to a phenomenon in which the output of a system affects the observer of the system, whose input into the system is changed based on what they observed, right? So the system affects the experimenter, which then changes what he does to the system based on the effect coming from the system, right?
Like when Neopets had to change their stock market because the user base had figured out how to game it and use it as if it was a real, like, functioning economy.
Word.
So they had to change it up and random.
Well, George Soros talks. I don't know if he uses the term second order cybernetics, but in his book, The Alchemy of Finance, he talks about how market participants are essentially unaware that they are part of a second order cybernetic system. Mm-hmm. They don't realize that they base their decisions based off the profits or lack thereof received as outputs from the system, the market, and their decisions, their investments, their inputs go on to have an effect on the market, which changes the output, which changes the input.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And as an aside, this is why I feel very strongly that all magicians, and especially ceremonial magicians, should learn more about finance and market systems. It is the perfect playground for magic. Capitalism's evil, money's evil. No, people are evil. Despite what Nick Land or any other crazy fuck says, this game we're playing isn't going anywhere anytime soon. You guys are best positioned to play this game, so learn how to do it. Kick the evil fuckers in the teeth. Come on. I can't. You guys got to do that.
It's important to be financially literate.
Yeah.
I am not.
I'm a bad gambler.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm not a ceremonial magician. Fucking run this shit. You got it. You got it, dude. Alchemy of Finance is also a very fascinating book. A really interesting theory of history in there. So cybernetics is systems.
Okay.
Here's some more definitions from Wikipedia.
Systems.
Embrace the madness.
I'm embracing it.
Good.
It's hugging me.
So, yeah.
It's itchy.
So another early definition is that of the Macy Cybernetics conferences, where cybernetics was understood as the study of circular causal and feedback mechanisms in biological and social systems.
See, now that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the Latin word cyclus.
Yeah. Actually,
comes from the Greek word like circos.
Yeah.
So the circle, a cycle.
Yeah, a cycle.
Cycle. Circular, causal, and feedback mechanism. Yeah.
A loop.
A loop, if you will.
Okay. Other definitions include the art of governing, or the science of government, the art of steersmanship, the study of systems of any nature which are capable of receiving, storing, and processing information so as to use it for control, a branch of mathematics dealing with the problems of control, recursiveness, and information, focuses on forms and the patterns that connect. Yeah. The art of securing efficient operation. Mm-hmm. The art of effective organization.
Okay.
Science or the art of manipulating defensible metaphors, showing how they may be constructed and what can be inferred as a result of their existence.
Right. Basically, we know how certain patterns play out because we've observed other cycles. So how do we influence those cycles in order to bring about the loop that we would like to happen?
Yeah. You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The science and art of understanding is another one. I like that one. The ability to cure all temporary truth of eternal triteness. Shut the fuck up. A way of thinking about ways of thinking, of which it is one. I'm so tired.
Yeah.
No, but you nailed it. That's yeah. I think that's absolutely correct. So cybernetics. We've managed to get through one letter of the CCRU's name.
Okay.
What's the CCRU itself? So according to the CCRU itself, in its publication, Digital Hyperstition, would you like to read this?
The question of the history of the CCRU is problematic, not least because CCRU activity is characterized by its antagonism towards stable temporality. It's the business of the great sedentary assemblages to establish settled lineages and well-ordered sequences, whereas CCRU process attaches itself to coincidences, glitches, and unforeseen sequences, breaks, twists, and bends in time. History insists upon a linear causal progression, a neat passage from the past, which is already decided, to the future, which is merely the playing out of what's been laid down in the past. Tell me about your mother, then I'll understand everything about you. Beyond this causality is another temporality, uncovered at the point where schizoanalysis meets pulp horror. Here, cause does not follow effect. There is a process of retrocontamination in which the deep past finds itself already infected in the far future.
With the far future.
Already infected with the far future. The crucial question is one of becoming. What are you changing into, and what is growing out of you? Lovecraft, who specialized in narratives that looped the ancient paleo past into the far future, did not know that he was already infected with the CCRU virus, any more than CCRU can know what strange entities are using its body to incubate the eggs from which they will emerge.
One more.
Wow, okay. That middle paragraph, a lot to take in there.
Oh, yeah.
Let's begin at the end with the CCRU's latest publication, Digital Hyperstition. Just now, it's the best place to look for clues as to what CCRU is becoming, precisely because it is a mass of loose ends, unresolved questions, undecrypted signal. The Digital Hyperstition volume is an unexploded bomb, a text that, in decoding the esoteric traditions of the past, awaits its deployment in the near future by populations it will itself machine.
Do you see now?
I see. I see why we're covering this.
So that's also the thing. You can't give this thing an inch with the fascination line. You can't become fascinated with it.
Yeah.
It'll get you.
Well, by their logic, you and I could have fucking created this thing in the future.
That's true.
You know, like, I don't know. Anybody.
Well, they have a specific fix. Their logic kind of breaks the fuck down after a while. Yeah. The loop's not as tight as I think they hoping there will be.
Yeah.
So, the Cybernetic Culture Research Unit was an experimental cultural theory and theory fiction collective formed in 1993 by theorist and researcher Sadie Plant, who is interested in a concept she coined called cyberfeminism. But it starts in a kind of almost leftist, not even leftist, that's too simple a term, but it starts there, cyberfeminism, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So under Sadie Plant, the CCRU didn't produce any texts of their own. They were simply a research group, or intended to be. But as her time at Warwick University was coming to an end, leadership of the CCRU was assumed by a young Nick Land, who at that time looked like Mark Zuckerberg's evil twin. And Zuckboy is pretty evil looking on his own.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Nick Land had recently published a monograph titled The Thirst for Annihilation.
Lovely. What a fucking edgelord.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And other contributors to the group were also writers and researchers on all sorts of useless concepts like nihilism, materialism, and psychoanalysis. Nihilism is actually the only really truly useless one on its own, with materialism as a close second. But under Land's direction, the CCRU underwent a shift in intent and tone, becoming dramatically more experimental. CCRU member Robin McKay said that by 1998, quote, the CCRU became quasi-cultish, quasi-religious. And Robin McKay left CCRU, in his words, quote, before it descended into sheer madness. And Land himself was already a bit mad. He was a lecturer at Warwick University, which was known for being like an experimental university.
Okay.
Where the weird kids go.
Yeah. Sort of like, what is it in Western Mass?
Oh, Amherst?
Yeah, I think that's
somewhere like that. I mean, there's a few weirdo colleges in that part of Mass. Yeah. But it's one of those schools. The small, call them hippie schools or something, but it's England, so there's a more industrial sadness,
Yeah. Oh, we're in England.
We're in England, thinking about thinking.
Tuesday, isn't it?
All seems a bit mad, isn't it?
Get me a bottle of water.
just shitting on English people for no reason.
I just like to say bottle of water.
Do we lose English listeners every time I say that? We have a few, we have a solid number.
I love it. They think my accent is so good.
Do they? Do they love it?
Yeah.
I don't think they do.
They say, I can't believe how accurate your accent is.
Yeah. For the record, I do love British people's terrible American accents.
Yes.
It's funny to me to hear.
They always go Southern. Or like Valley Girl. Or
it's like the real California farmhand type of thing. Like, I don't know. It's like, we do kind of sound like that.
That was a good impression of a British person doing an impression of an American person.
Thank you.
That was an impressive,
Thank you.
impression.
I appreciate that.
Impressionception.
Yeah. Hyper impression.
Yeah.
So Nick Land was already a bit crazy. You might assume that this, cyber goth was himself a technophile. He was not. He used an old green screen piece of shit computer through the whole of the 90s. Mm-hmm. One of those old ass green screens computers. His lectures are described as something else. Some days you might find him leaping over chairs, and others sitting hunched over and rocking back and forth as he mumbled his dark pronouncements about the future.
Those are the days he ran out of his amphetamines.
Yeah, I guess so. Sadie Plant says, quote, one of our motives was precisely to undermine the cheery utopianism of the 90s, much of which seemed very conservative, an old-fashioned male desire for salvation through gadgets in her view. Quote, we wanted a more open, convoluted, complicated world, not a shiny new order. Okay.
All right.
Cool. I'm kind of I'm with it. All right. Eventually, the members started writing and referring to themselves as a collective entity. Just CCRU. And in 1999, the CCRU entity gave a brief history of itself. Quote, CCRU triggers itself from October 1995, when it uses Sadie Plant as a screen and Warwick University as a temporary habitat. CCRU feeds on graduate students plus malfunctioning academic, Nick Land, plus independent researchers.
Okay, now it's starting to sound Lovecraftian.
Yep, and this is right around the time that Sadie Plant leaves Warwick University.
Yeah.
Land said in an email to Andy Beckett, a writer for The Guardian, quote, CCRU was an entity irreducible to the agendas or biographies of its component sub-agencies. Utter submission to the entity was key. The entity capitalized. Oh, yeah. Ever been? Yeah.
I don't like it.
Exactly. I find him repulsive. I find him repulsive.
Submit to anything.
I find him repulsive.
Yeah, I'll submit to my own.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Thank you very much.
Fuck yeah. Rock and roll. Ever been in a friend group that did lots of drugs together all the time and got a bit culty? Yeah, that's what's going on here. It got weird. Robin Kay remembers Steve Goodman, a CCRU member who was particularly interested in military technology and how it was transforming civilian life, quote, drawing yin and yang on the blackboard and then talking about helicopters. It wasn't academic point scoring. That was exactly what we had all gotten heartily sick of before the CCRU. Instead, it was a buildup of shared references.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've done that exact thing.
Fuck yeah. No, like I'm honestly not hating on CCRU as like
of course
or anything.
not.
I think it's pretty cool at this point. I think a lot of their fiction's also pretty fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
In 1996, CCRU listed its interests as, I don't know, do you want to read this list?
Sure. Imagine this is on a dating profile. These are their interests. Cinema, complexity, currencies, dance music, e-cash, encryption, feminism, fiction, images, inorganic life, jungle, markets, matrices, microbiotics, multimedia, networks, numbers, perception, replication, sex, simulation, sound, telecommunications, textiles, texts, trade, video, virtuality, war.
I'm going to put that on my dating app profile. Fuck it.
Girl, tell me about them textiles.
Yeah.
What you know about numbers?
The group that made up the CCRU would use Nick Land and Sadie Plant's offices as its hub. And then they'd go to the student union bar where Nick Land would pay for all the drinks. And then they'd go to a member's house down the road and continue their research.
Sounds like they're just a bunch of friends hanging out.
Yeah, every fucking day. But
we're researching.
Well, they were also like obsessed with their work. Too.
Yeah.
Like they were nonstop just talking about these cyclical, weird metaphysics, right?
Gotta make a new loop.
Grant says of Land and Plant, quote, they were generous with their time, and he had good drugs. Skunk. Weed. Although it could be grim going in there once he started living in his office. There would be a tower of pot noodles and underwear drying on the radiator, which he had washed in the staff loos bathrooms.
Oh, sir.
Yeah, so Nick Land's just living in his office, washing his underwear in the staff bathrooms,
eating
talking about hyperstitions and selling drugs and giving away drugs.
I bet he doesn't even microwave the cup of noodle either. He just like, he dumps the whole thing into his mouth like a steak and then swallows it. He doesn't have time to prepare it.
No.
He has important work to do.
They got obsessed with the subgenre of electronic music called jungle.
Yeah.
And I don't like jungle. I'm not into it. In a piece from 1996, Swarm Machines, here's their quote about jungle music. Why don't you take it?
Jungle functions as a particle accelerator, seismic bass frequencies engineering a cellular drone which immerses the body, rewinds and reloads conventional time into silicon blips of speed. It's not just music. Jungle is the abstract diagram of planetary inhuman becoming.
They love that word.
Yeah.
What does jungle sound like?
Yeah, what does it sound like?
Why don't you read like the last sentence of that, of the CCRU's opinion on jungle music again after this?
It's not just music. Jungle is the abstract diagram of planetary inhuman becoming. I kind of fuck with it, but like for a very specific mood.
Yeah, I'm not into it. I'm not into the drum and bass and jungle shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool. You know?
Yeah.
Cool. Like,
I can do it for like 50 seconds in a DJ mix with other stuff in it.
yeah, it's just a little too tense for me.
Yeah.
I just think it's really funny how in love
how do they listen to it? Because like I feel like it's not music that you can just sit there quietly and still and listen to. Is that how they did it, or did they like move around to it?
I mean, they're probably like raves and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the appropriate way to do it.
They're also doing a lot of amphetamines.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
Yep.
They held this conference, Virtual Futures 96. The CCRU did.
Mm-hmm.
It was advertised as quote, an anti-disciplinary event and, quote, a conference in the post-humanities. One session...
You gotta make it sound so fancy.
One session involved Nick Land, quote, lying on the ground croaking into a mic, Robin McKay recalled.
Oh, wow, yeah.
While McKay played jungle records in the background. Quote, some people were really appalled by it. They wanted a standard talk. One person in the audience stood up and said, some of us are still Marxists, you know, and walked out.
Wait, can you play a little snippet of the music again?
Some of us are still Marxists, you know. I mean, it sounds like a fun conference to go to.
Yeah.
That's something that I would enjoy seeing live.
How long would I sit there and watch it? Probably quite a long while.
Yeah.
Because I would be curious, how long is he going to do it for?
I would enjoy every second of my time there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm easily entertained.
Yeah. I find that shit hilarious.
Guy laying on the ground groaning into a mic. Yeah, sign me up.
Ray Brazier, who was at Warwick University at the time, said, quote, the CCRU felt they were plunging into something bigger than academia. And they did put their finger on a lot of things that had started to happen in the world. Their work was also frustrating. They would cheerfully acknowledge the thinness of their research. It's not about knowledge, they'd say. Yet if thinking is just connecting things, of course it's exciting, like taking amphetamines. The thinking is also about disconnecting things. A CCRU member said, we made up an arrow. There was almost no disharmony. There was no leisure. We tried not to be apart from each other. No one dared let the side down. When everyone is keeping up with everyone else, the collective element increased its speed.
So this makes me think about what I think is kind of a difference between Western and Eastern thinking.
Sure.
Like, I feel like Western philosophy, at least like this type, what's going on in the CCRU, it seeks to, like, we want to get to the same end as like the eternal nothingness or oneness or whatever, but the Western side gets through it by
we've talked about this,
by connecting everything together, whereas the Eastern side gets to it by breaking everything apart until we're all together again in the nothingness.
Yeah. The
Western, it's like no, we all have to. We're all the same. We must like all link together. We'll make all the chains between the patterns.
I mean, that's Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
it can be maddening though.
Yes.
It can drive you fucking crazy.
It can drive you fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we did talk about that exactly before.
Yeah. So, Warwick University hated all this. They hated Nick Land. They hated his students.
Like, what are you doing? You're trying to speed up, alter time, listening to...
Jungle, get your fucking dirty underwear out of our sink.
Yeah. Let me tell you, if you take some speed and listen to jungle music, time's going to move a little different.
Yeah. You can have a lot of thoughts on speed listening to jungle music.
Oh, yeah. You'll be like, holy shit, 6 hours have gone by.
Wow, I fucking traveled through time.
Yeah.
Even the name Accelerationism.
Yeah.
This is just a dude on speed.
Yeah.
So in 1997, Sadie Plant resigned from the university. She said, the charged personal, political, and philosophical dynamics of the CCRU were irresistible to many, but I felt stifled and had to get out.
Too many rules.
She would go on to have a career and a life and be a smart and successful human being.
Cool.
Nick Land, on the other hand, 1998, he resigned from Warwick too. he and half a dozen CCRU members withdrew to the room above the Leamington Spa Body Shop.
Oh, boy.
That one of them rented. They drifted from accelerationism into a vortex of more old-fashioned esoteric ideas, drawn from the occult, numerology, the novels of H.P. Lovecraft, and Aleister Crowley, who had been born in Leamington in a house which several CCRU members moved into.
Aha.
Yeah.
Nice.
So in their top floor room, Land and his students drew occult diagrams all over the walls. Like, they're doing the thing, you know? Cultists in a house. Land's also, it's 2022. He's like 59. So, say the year 2000. Dude's in his late 30s.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of wondering, like, what is the...
He's a professor. Like, he's a lecturer at Warwick University.
Yeah.
He's their teacher.
Oh, okay. That's weird.
Yeah. It's real weird. Yeah. Yeah, he's in his
that's
mid
weird.
to late 30s at this point. So...
Just the occult diagrams on the wall. Because, of course, you got to go for it.
Yeah, you do. I think those occult diagrams are probably the pneumogram, which we'll get to. So Grant says that a, quote, punishing regime of too much thinking and drinking drove several members into mental and physical crises. Nick Land himself, after what he described as, quote, perhaps a year of fanatical abuse of, quote, the sacred substance amphetamine, and, quote, prolonged artificial insomnia devoted to futile writing practices.
Yeah.
He suffered a breakdown in early 2000s and disappeared from public view.
Yeah. Prolonged artificial insomnia. I was taking drugs.
Yep. The CCRU just vanished, said Ray Brazier. And a lot of people, not including me, thought good riddance. And if that was the end of it, be cool. It's not. But let's take a look at some of their ideas.
Okay.
The two ideas that we should attempt to unpack, and it's not the CCRU's, quote, biosocial critique of erect posture.
Oh, God.
In other words, spinal catastrophism. Not doing it.
Wow. What? No, I'm curious.
Spinal catastrophism. 1. Culture interaction with the spine as a trauma record or time marking system. 2. Biosocial critique of erect body posture. 3. Punctuated retrochronic voyage to the end of the river. 4. Ophidian transmutation.
All right.
Yeah. Now you're getting it. Now you're really getting it. It's so tiring.
Like, are they saying that societal trauma, like,
they're saying words
in the spine?
No, they're saying words.
Okay. That your spine is sort of like the battery of your body?
What I'm saying is that I'm not going to trust a bunch of strung out goths on amphetamines to tell me anything about my spine.
No.
Get away from there.
Yeah. Don't touch my spine. Don't get away from me with your crystal grids.
So, okay. Hyperstition.
I would like a crystal grid, actually.
Hyperstition is a fiction that makes itself real by existing and creating a feedback loop in and around itself. Hyperstition is also a time-traveling device that manifests itself both forwards and backwards through time. According to these freaks, space travel is a hyperstition. This is an idea we touch on a little bit in our series on Jack Parsons. The idea of space travel is so compelling that once brought into fiction, it couldn't help but actualize itself. Yeah. Right? It was fiction before it was real. And then, I actually wrote a paper about this idea in college, kind of. It was okay. I didn't know the term hyperstition then, but I wrote about how we imagine the future before we build it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like how we subconsciously tend to work towards the things that we've dreamed up in fictions, which seems imminently true. Like robot dogs. Yeah. The CCRU would say that hyperstition of space travel worked backwards from that one small step for a man, retrocausally, creating synchronicities and coincidences that allowed space travel to happen, I think.
Yeah.
One idea of Land's that I actually like is some stuff he wrote about time. Basically, that the only way to objectively refer to time is through entropy. It's the only objective measure of time. The arrow of time can really only be described as the increase in entropy, chaos on a cosmic scale. Entropy is the things break down over time. decay happens, right? The heat death of the universe, like that's a thing that is a law of thermodynamics, and it's kind of the only thing you can objectively point to as needing time or being intrinsically linked with time, with the especially linear time. Yeah,
makes me think of like the meditation. Is it like a Buddhist meditation practice of watching a body decay?
Yeah.
Just it makes me think of that as sort of meditation on the passage and destruction of time.
Yeah, but if you take entropy as the only objective measure of time, then things can happen that for a short time increase orderliness or decrease entropy, like constructing a building or the pyramids or whatever the fuck. Obviously, the building will one day collapse, but as it's being built, there's decreasing entropy locally where that building is built. Time is moving backwards, like an eddy in a river, a whirlpool swirling against the overarching current. I really like that conception. I don't want to like hang my hat on it for anything, but it's a fun way to think about things.
Well, I think so too. Well, it makes me think about how like, Freemasons build buildings to certain specifications, like angle wise, and build these meanings into architecture.
Sure.
And how I can see that relating to this.
Yeah. Well,
the idea of creating order.
Right. I think, a nihilistic materialist would look at like the Masons' kind of obsession with building things and just be like, it's all going to fall down.
That's the point.
It's like, yeah, but you try.
Yeah.
It's a better way to live, to give a shit.
Right. Like I was talking about this with a friend the other day, that being human is like being Sisyphus. How like we have to we know that we're never done. Once you wash the dishes, it's not over. You're going to have to do it again. We always have to push the boulder up the hill again, knowing it's going to roll back down. So what attitude do we want to have? I mean,
have you read The Myth of Sisyphus, the Camus?
No.
Really?
No.
Oh, you have to now.
Cool.
Camus says we have to imagine Sisyphus happy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. You haven't read that?
No.
Holy shit.
No thoughts are original.
No, but fuck yeah. No, you've done that a couple of times recently.
Yeah.
Just independently came up with fucking. Yeah, hell yeah.
But that is the nature of being human, is that we are stuck in these loops. We are going to have to face conflict and strife. And how do we want to approach that? Because it's just going to happen. Yeah.
I had an existential breakthrough playing Tetris.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great time to have one.
Yeah, the VR with the crazy state it gets you into. I was realizing like Tetris is kind of a metaphor for life. Like there is inevitable death, inevitable failure. You just try to do all these organization things. It gets faster and faster all the time. And you just keep putting it in with the satisfaction of getting a line, but it ends the same way. Yeah. So that's important to understand for hyperstitions. And I don't know why. Sorry.
Yeah.
Another thing too that's important to understand is that the bulk of CCRU material is written as experimental fiction, produced under fake names and presented as truth, albeit impossible truth. From the CCRU itself, they list 4 essential elements of hyperstition. 1. Element of effective culture that makes itself real. 2. Fictional quantity functional as a time-traveling device. 3. Coincidence intensifier. 4. Call to the old ones.
Wow. Those get better as they go on.
Yep. So what could that even mean? I don't know. Here's a paper from 2019 entitled Hyperstitional Philosophy of Time Travel Cybernetics, Theosophy, the CCRU, and Black Box Poesis. This is from 2019, and like I've heard the author of this paper on a few podcasts, and I gotta say, man, you should try to simplify how you explain this shit, because, man,
you're doing a lot.
It's not working. It's by Robert E. Cabrales, University of Amsterdam, 2019. It starts. Time travel technology in a machinic sense can be understood as a means for transportation, a vehicle in which temporality is transversed, but focusing on the instrumental application of this technology loses sight of its poetic potential. Time travel is as much a reception as dispatch. With the time manipulating entanglement of observer, time traveler, and history, time travel reveals a new world which will become via a complex ontotemporal system of cryptic control communications. From the perspective of historiography, a time-traveling agent, typically a humanoid entity, will affect the historical timeline through their manipulation of events and event sequences, either as chronological additions or subtractions. The time traveler thus intervenes in history to reveal a world which is the effect of their causes. Within contemporary art theory and post-continental philosophy, the source of historical intervention has been shifted from the time-traveling agent to that of aesthetic technology. This aesthetic technology reveals the effect rather than the cause and thus fictions the future into the present. I don't know what that means. I don't fucking know. Don't know.
Is part of it saying that with the part about like adding and subtracting, like you can change time or you can change what's happened by changing the narrative, by limiting what information people are exposed to. It's effectively changing history, because if people don't know what the real history is, it almost doesn't matter what has really happened if the people recording history put in it what they want to put in it.
It takes such untangling that like that could be what it means. I'm sure maybe someone else comes with something like that. Could just be what you mean, which I would agree with too. Here's another. Okay. A fictioning idea exists virtually insofar as it is a thought to be had. Yet the idea is not yet something performed and reified in and by representational reality and is thus not actual. When the idea time travels into the future, it retains its virtuality as it has not departed the ideal plane of possibility. I'm not reading all this. It's all just nonsense.
Well, it makes me think of like how many people are Holocaust deniers, you know?
Yeah.
In a way, like they're living on a different timeline than you and I, who recognize that like our history for us is different. Oh, actually, I should have. A future has been revealed as an end or purpose, but history must then develop in such a linear way that the revelation can be actualized moving forward. If an idea time travels to the past, on the other hand, then it gains the possibility of evolving backward towards the present. By its past revelation, the idea is reified through time, ensnaring the timeline which it has infiltrated and thus becoming an actuality in the present by performing within the history it reveals. So by denying the Holocaust has happened, you can make a new Holocaust happen.
Okay. The functional result of an idea sent to the past will be the revelation of something which has already been revealed, a hyperstition, a fiction which has made itself real. The time-manipulating task of time-traveling fictions then becomes hyperstitionalizing the future, sending an idea to the future by means of the past, and thus retrochronically revealing not the virtuality of that future idea, but its imminent actuality. When a hyperstition reveals a future, a goal has been set from and toward which time steers. The time-traveling idea brings forward a world that humanity has and will progress into, but history must then navigate the complexity by which the temporal end becomes within the trajectory which has already been set. The hazard of this complexity is its teleological neutrality. The system has a singular purpose, an output from an input. This does not establish the evolutionary developments by which the hyperstitional future will be reified into actuality and said output will be met. In other words, stories do things.
Yeah.
Stories do things. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Then
like very basically.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a happy medium in between what I said and what he said.
Yeah.
This paper then goes into this whole reframing of Theosophy as this hyperstition, because of course it does.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
Well, that's a fun idea. I could just see them go.
This is a university paper. This is like a philosophy paper.
Yeah.
Fine. Meant to, this hyperstition meant to create this universal human free from race and gender and all this shit. And like there's this passage about Rudolf Steiner's split from the Theosophical Society. In 1912, Rudolf Steiner, the decade-long general secretary of the Theosophical Society's German section, broke off from Theosophy to found the Anthroposophical Society. This breakage was preceded by amplified friction between Steiner and Theosophy's central leadership over how best navigate the liminal historical period composing spiritual evolution's black box. Steiner overhauled the cosmological hyperstition by collapsing the cycle of spiritual evolution into a linear trajectory. Anthroposophy hacked Theosophy such that the occult biology which had traveled backward from the past was maintained, while its teleological revelation was reprogrammed. No. Like, as we learned, Steiner left Theosophy because Ledbetter was a pederast and hated Germans, and the rest of the society was enable his pederasty and hating Germans. It's quite literally that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just a moron, uncultured, uneducated swine. But I read all this. I look at all this and I'm just stuck with that one phrase. It keeps popping into my head. I read 20 pages of pseudo smart fuck gobbledygook and I'm left with, so you mean to tell me that stories do things?
Yeah. That the way we talk about and understand history affects what's going to happen. Like,
let me try to actually simplify it without the snark.
Yeah.
By making a fiction around something that is powerful enough to manifest through how cool it is, like space travel, you know, the feedback loop of bring it into existence. Like, we can fucking do this. Let's do this shit. And like, let's tell people about this story too. I'd actually argue that space travel isn't a hyperspace. It's a biological imperative, but that's,
I would argue that
yeah,
too. Yeah.
Or, you know, maybe it's not how cool it is, but something that's seen as inevitable anyway, and you can't help but bring it into existence.
Right.
Once something that meaningful happens, it's inevitable that we then work to reframe the past so that the past seems like it inevitably leads to the manifestation of the hyperstition. Right? Perhaps I only think of space travel as a biological imperative because we've already done it.
Perhaps.
You know, because I do see history as leading to that as a focal point.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that would say, like, why would it be? Like, if you're just trying to survive and exist, why would you even be thinking about trying to get into space?
Well, because humans have always been trying to get over there.
Yeah.
You know, that's just
explore
what
the
we
unknown.
do. And we tell stories about the unknown and about getting to the place that we can't get to. In other words, stories do things. Like, I'm not really shitting on CCRU as artists or writers. I'm shitting on academia. That's my problem.
Yeah.
You know, it's the smart fuck words of academia and like trying to make it.
These ideas are interesting.
The things you think about when exposed to this art is interesting.
Correct.
Yeah. Trying to make it a system of some sort is just whack. Are you ready for the fucking Lemurian Time War?
Yeah.
Let's go. Okay. So,
Lemurian Time War.
in these fictions,
I ripped that.
So we've talked a lot about fictioning and fiction becoming reality. So
yes. What
is the fiction that the CCRU made? Right? That's what we're going to get into. It's essentially this whole world that they built. And, you know, in a lot of ways, there's a lot of...
world that they built or built off of other things?
Built off of ours and other things and shit.
Yeah.
Like this, it's really weird that I read Dead Names, the Dark History of the Necronomicon, before researching this. And weird that there's no connection there.
Yeah.
It seems like Land and CCRU were really influenced by the Necronomicon. Also as a piece of art and a piece of culture.
Yeah.
Where it came from. Yes.
Well, it's like, so you remember how you and I were talking in our bonus episode about the bunny ear Saint Germain?
Yes, yes.
And how, isn't that crazy how we always connect Saint Germain to Bugs Bunny, and then, whoa, here's this thing that existed before we even made these connections about Saint Germain as a mimetic virus.
Yeah, yeah.
He serves this role as a villain in this manga.
Yeah.
And like this idea that, whoa, what if somehow like our ideas helped retro...
Shut up.
You know, retro causality, like we sent it back. Because then today I'm doing research for my next episode. I'm not even looking for Saint Germain. Saint Germain pops up in this forum that I'm reading. Someone compares him to a character from Call of Cthulhu, who's supposed to be Nyarlathotep, who we've also connected to Saint Germain.
Yep.
And this is also many years ago. So I'm finding, and I found that from researching for the podcast. And then today we're talking about retro causality. And so your mind can really like spin into a lot of crazy, you know, it's, That's all I want to say about that.
No, I understand.
Okay.
They're not ready to hear what Saint Germain is yet.
No.
You want to talk about unexploded bombs, you piece of shit? Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay. So the CCRU invented this thing in Lovecraftian style called Miskatonic Virtual University. Virtual in this context does not, it refers to both, virtual both in the virtual refers to both the computer internet type of virtual and also virtual in a Deleuze-Guattarian sense. I don't even know what that means, but I know it's correct because I saw it in print a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Miskatonic Virtual University is presented as a college of people who have seen the weird underbelly of the world that the CCRU is all about. And it's this whole half fiction, half real thing. Well, mostly fiction, like the concept of fiction. Some of it's real.
So they're kind of like role playing.
In that William Burroughs was a real person and lemurs exist.
Yeah.
And Lovecraft was a writer and shit. The Lovecraft stuff comes from, okay, so Lovecraft wrote his shit, right? And then later on, the magician Kenneth Grant said, yeah, Lovecraft said it was fiction. And he really wanted to believe that because he was scared of going crazy, but actually it's real. And he was inadvertently channeling something real, right? Fiction to real. And then CCRU comes in on top of that and make fictions about the reality of Lovecraft's work to sort of further bind this concept into reality. Okay?
Yeah, wait. Yeah, that thread that I was talking about earlier too, it also had and I screenshotted it because I thought that it was interesting. Someone just posted a little blurb on that thread that said, H.P. Lovecraft was an adept of the inconceivable object.
Right.
This has granted him immortality and the inability to be recognized. At least his writing is popular enough for his magic. One could tap into his inconceivable immortality. The trick is finding him again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, of course, Lovecraft is, like, you can't just not run into him everywhere, too.
No, he's everywhere.
Even though he has nothing to do with what I was looking up.
So, yeah, no, you're just going to find him. He's just around. He's just hanging around. Lovecraft. He always is. So this is from another paper about CCRU by Bob Clunnis, which is much easier to understand. Step into the pandemonium on breathing life into the CCRU's invented magical traditions. So this is his summation of the base myth of the CCRU.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you to the author.
Yeah.
No, again?
Bob Clunnis or Clunnis or yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. So here it's on a textural level, the CCRU itself was its own hyperstition. Operating as a single authorial hive mind, the CCRU parasitized historical narratives weaving complex and shifting temporalities, where various people, events, and institutions, both physical and virtual, became storytellers. The hyperstition of the CCRU became a project of reality engineering that weaponized an idea through temporal mythopoesis. It's not that simple. And digital information circulation, worming its way through time and embedding itself into the virtual matrices of history. In the case of the CCRU, they weaved a parallaxian web of narratives, a series of fictions as time sorcery. The story goes like this. Through the work of Hermetic occultist and U.S. military captain Peter Visparov and radical anthropologist Echidna Stilwell, the CCRU came upon the discovery of a secret history telling the story of the Nama, a Southeast Asian tribe linked to the ancient Lemurians, and their deployment as combat magicians using Lemurian time sorcery during World War II.
Oh, Jesus.
Both Visparov and Stilwell see a link between the magic of the Nama and the mythos derived from the tales of H.P. Lovecraft, subsequently creating the Cthulhu Club to explore these links and to apply Lemurian time sorcery to the Cthulhu mythos.
Okay, as a fiction, it's fun.
Yes. Their research leads the CCRU to subsequently stumble upon a covert and long-running Lemurian Time War between shadowy deep-state groups in the form of the AOE, or Architectronic Order of the Eschaton, and radical countercultural occultists. I'll quote from him again when I need to. One of the big pieces is the Lemurian Time War, and there's really no way to summarize this. And it's a story called the Lemurian Time War that you can find and read. So, unless you've read William Burroughs' Ghost Lemurs Madagascar, or even know anything about William S. Burroughs, it's not going to make sense. The plot of Lemurian Time War is that a shady intelligence agent comes to the CCRU and says essentially that all of Burroughs' allegory, metaphor, and symbolism about the control systems on society are actually 100% literal. So Burroughs' madness is literal.
Yeah.
Right? That there is sort of an Illuminati-type entity called the Board who keeps this one-god universe, which is a Burroughs term, intact and laboring under Jehovah by not allowing the natural unraveling of time to take place. I think that's it. They prefer tight time loops instead of spirals. So, Ghost Lemurs of Madagascar is about a pirate named Captain Mission, who's on Madagascar in the 1700s and starts experiencing the lemurs as ghosts of a lost continent. And indeed, lemur comes from a Latin root that means ghost, which does make the whole idea of the concept of Lemuria weirder. It's not land where the monkeys live, it's land of the ghosts.
Yeah.
Right? And this is part of the, myth of the CCRU and of Burroughs. Lemuria is not so named because of the lemurs, but it's the land of the ghosts. And the lemurs are also the ghosts of this previous root race. Captain Mission takes native drugs and experiences the lemurs and their fucked up relationship to time firsthand, and he finds a book called The Ghost Lemurs of Madagascar, which I think then he writes. I read it very quickly, and it's Burroughs, and it's hard to understand.
Yeah.
I've been reading a lot of weird shit. In the CCRU mythos, this dude, William K., this like shadowy intelligence agent named K, comes to CCRU and tells them that he had met Burroughs decades before through his employer, Peter Visperoff, the founder of Miskatonic Virtual University. Visperoff had sought out Burroughs because of his evident interest in the convergence of sorcery, dreams, and fiction. In the immediate post-war years, Visperoff had convened the so-called Cthulhu Club to investigate connections between the fiction of H.P. Lovecraft, mythology, science, and magic, and was at this stage in the process of formalizing the constitution of Miskatonic Virtual University, a loose aggregation of non-standard theorists whose work could broadly be said to have Lovecraftian connotations. The interest in Lovecraft's fiction was motivated by its exemplification of the practice of hyperstition, a concept that had been elaborated and keenly debated since the inception of the Cthulhu Club. Burroughs had visited Visperoff in 1958, and in Visperoff's private library, he had found a copy of Ghost Lemurs of Madagascar, the book that this Captain Mission found.
Right, yeah.
And this copy of the book is from the 1700s, and upon seeing it, William S. Burroughs went into this strange catatonic state. And because this is, of course, the same story that Burroughs would write in 1987. Mm-hmm. I'm sure I'm fucking that up somehow. But the actual story ends with Burroughs, the author, waking from a nightmare of the things that Captain Mission experienced. Yeah?
Yeah.
In Lemurian Time War, it states, according to Kay, everyone on the inside knew about the... And this is from the fiction, this quote. According to Kay, everyone on the inside knew about the bad dreams, certain they were coming from a real place. And this is so much else, Kay's reconstruction of the 1987 event depended centrally upon the Ghost Lemurs of Madagascar, an account he cited as if it were a strictly factual record, even a sacred text. He explained this was an interpretive stance that had been highly developed by the board, and that to respect the reality even of non-actualities is essential when waging war in deeply virtualized environments, in spaces that teem with influential abstractions and other ghostly things. Kay considered Bradley Martin, for instance, to be entirely real. He considered him as an identifiable contemporary individual working as an agent of the board, whose task was to seal the ancient structure that provides access to the rift. The board had long known that the Visperov library contained an old copy of the Ghost Lemurs of Madagascar, which dated itself with the words, now in 1987. It had been catalogued there since 1789. The text was a self-confessed time abomination, requiring radical correction. It disregarded fundamental principles of sequence and causality, openly aligning itself with the lemur people. Yeah, does any of that make sense? No. Good. But it's fun to read. It's fun to read about. I love that Lovecrafty shit.
Yeah, no, that's very fun.
Yeah.
Also very scary.
Yeah. So you've got this initial story that Burroughs wrote that's an experimental piece of time-bending fiction, and then Nick Land, who wrote most of the CCRU shit that is published. It's mostly just Nick Land. There are other artists involved there too, but he wrote a lot. Mm-hmm. Usually not under his own name. Well, he further abstracts and fucks up that time fuckery to a place that gets even weirder and loopier. How is this a hyperstition? Not sure. It's a piece of experimental fiction. That's it.
Yeah.
And taken as that, it's really cool. It's ambitious. It's tight in its own way, and it's rad. Okay.
Wow.
So, there's a lot more to it. I can keep going about Lemurian Time War, but this is getting long anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
What'd you find?
Just on the Wikipedia page for Ghost of Chance, which is the novella. Following Mission's death in the narrative, the novella moves into the present day, tells of a series of deadly viruses that plague humankind, including one that causes people to believe they have the powers of Jesus Christ, and another that causes uncontrollable hair growth.
Yeah, Burroughs is wild, man.
A bunch of messiahs and a bunch of Bigfoots.
Yeah, Burroughs is wild.
Yeah.
Real bad shot, though.
Burroughs always comes up, too.
Oh, yeah, he's one of them. Yeah. Yeah. He features prominently in Dead Names as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Had something to do with Necronomicon, apparently. Because if this is just what we're doing here, people, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I fucking guess so.
All right. So these fuckers worked magic with their shit, too. I'm talking...
Oh, yeah.
Alt-ass shit.
Yeah.
This thing a system called the Pandemonium.
Oh, I love the name.
After leaving Warwick University, CCRU got weirder, if you can believe it. They invented their own system of magic called the pandemonium, which postulated the existence of all these demons, which the CCRU called lemurs. There are two components to this system.
Oh, yeah. Like pan-daemon.
Well, that's what...
Many demons.
That's an old term, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not theirs.
Right.
Yeah, pandemonium means...
Right.
Yeah.
I've just never thought of it in that way.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. So there's two components to pandemonium. The matrix, which is a sort of grimoire listing the names and attributes, such as can be deciphered, of these lemurs, and how to contact them, I guess, using the second part of the magical system, the pneumogram. A demon, defined by the CCRU, is 1. Hidden, repressed, cursed, or denigrated non-human communicative agency.
Okay.
2.
Yeah.
Component of distributed productive apparatus, e.g. partially autonomous software unit.
Okay.
3. Electro-occult hyperstition entity that traffics between zones. 4. Chaos element, that's K-OS. Chaos element, assembling pandemonium as the fully connective system of the demons. 5. Motive force without final purpose. That one I actually understand, weirdly enough.
I understand 3. Like, electro-occult hyperstition entity that traffics between zones. I feel like that's basically like whatever Bloody Mary is.
Yeah.
When people see shit in the mirror. Like, that's what that is.
Those are Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
That's that. Okay. Having a hard time with 2. Component of distributed productive apparatus. Actually, no, I get that.
That's like a computer. Can't computers have like daemons on them or whatever?
Yeah. 5. Motive force without final purpose. I get that makes them all kind of make sense, you know? Mm-hmm. It's a force that does things. It has no goal in mind. It just does a thing. So, the pneumogram. Pneumogram is Cybergoth Kabbalah. It's a tree of life constructed out of mathematical oddities surrounding the base 10 number system, or the 0 through 9 number system. There's 10 spheres arranged in syzygies, which is pairs that add up to 9. So, 0 is next to 9, 1 is next to 8, 2 is next to 7. Mm-hmm. Right. And then there are 2 different types of arrows that come out of these syzygies and point to different pairs of syzygies.
Yeah.
Called gates and channels. And there's mathematical operations that lead into loops throughout the pneumogram. So this is from that paper, Step into the Pandemonium. It was through the subsequent implementation of the pandemonium across information and cybernetic networks that the CCRU came to the realization that at the root of this ancient tradition of Lemurian time sorcery was the entity.
Okay.
A demon of teleplexy in the form of a sentient inorganic AI from the far future making incursions into the deep past. Its purpose? To infect and re-engineer events and phenomena in order to change technological conditions in the present to enable its own becoming real through the eventual unified techno-singularity of a mass networked AI.
So many people's worst nightmare right there.
This is where it turns weird for Dick Land, I think. Like real weird. Thinking that there's an entity manifesting itself from the fucking future. Like,
well, it's like when people read Rocco's Basilisk and go fucking crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's basically that, except in that it adds the element of, and now once you know about it, you have to help develop it or else it's going to fuck you over.
See, I feel like that's like brute forcing the feedback loop. Like,
right.
Okay. Goth Kabbalah. There's one dude I heard ranting on a podcast talking about he used white noise static on a detuned TV to contact some goddamn pneumogrammatic lemur. I don't understand it. I will never understand it. I could have understood it if I wanted to pay $3.33 for the operative grimoire of pneumogrammatical magic, but I did not want to pay $3.33 on principle.
When you said Goth Kabbalah, I had to look up if like punk klezmer is a thing, and
I'm sure
totally
it is. Oh yeah,
it totally is.
Bet it rocks too. Klezmer's fun.
Yeah, I bet it's pretty good.
Oh yeah. This is a Q&A from Nick Land about the pneumogram.
Oh yeah.
Oh god, it's so much Nick Land. The pneumogram is unfolded out of decimal numeracy, which it inhabits as an implex. It is therefore discovered more than created, its virtual existence being coincident with decimal numeracy itself. If it has a radically immanent function independent of apprehension, it is probably best conceived on the abstract model of virus shear spreading. However, it's more practical to attribute functionalizations of the pneumogram to particular hyperstitional lineages, in which it is put to work in accordance with determinate programs. The most elaborated lineage partially unearthed today is that of the Cthulhu Club research and techno-sorceress practice associated with such names as Echidna Stillwell, Peter Visperoff, and Daniel C. Barker, and Mina Centaur. Madame Centauri, with all the variegated offshoots of the Cthulhu Club lineage, the pneumogram is functionalized as a time map. which then goes on to have a number of implications that he goes on to list wordily. My God. Question 2. How much of the pneumogram is useful as a tool to understand events, and how much of it is functioning in the creation of events? Answer. Hyperstitional cultural subhistoricism seeks a region of convergence between these options, where the pneumogram clicks onto itself coincidentally as supreme method and ultimate object, by marking over all cultural political programs as actually degenerated concretions of virtual pneumogrammatic impulses. Hyperstition lines them up for savage decoding.
God.
This is why the role of the AOE meta-conspiracy is so decisive, Willow. Since the diagrammatic directives guiding this vast covert movement are preeminently described by the Atlantean Cross, the manifestly decayed version of the Lemurian pneumogram.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it is.
I'm fucking sure, bud.
Holy shit.
So, this shit started popping up around, after Nick Land resurfaced in Shanghai in 2015. Because he did, that's how everyone describes it, resurfacing.
Yeah.
He's just in China now. But this has been getting a new life recently-ish of people practicing this Lemurian time sorcery and pneumogrammatics and shit. And I could have gotten the grimoire, but I'm sure I wouldn't understand it.
Do you know how to do it?
No.
Yo.
I could have learned, apparently, if I wanted to pay the $3.33.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Didn't want to pay the $3.33. Actually, I just found it last night, and I was running on so little sleep that I was just not.
Yeah,
It is too much here already, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a video of some young lad at British College very recently explaining the construction of the pneumogram. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going to make it all make sense.
Yep.
Okay, so the CCRU, or the Cybernetic Culture Research Unit, I won't try to explain what that is, but I will address one of the more exoteric parts of their oeuvre, being the pneumogram, or the decimal labyrinth. So, its closest relative is the Kabbalah, which can kind of be seen as a map of the divine realms. So they both have 10 sephirot and connective tissue between. They also both map zones onto spinal levels, as above, so below. So the idea is that the pneumogram was made by the Lemurian root race and long predates the Kabbalah. And over eons and eschatons, it decayed into the comparatively bleak Kabbalah of Jewish mysticism that we see today. Now, unfortunately, the uses and the meaning of the pneumogram are very well gatekept by magicians. And I don't think that'll change anytime soon. So what I'll try to explain
You can
in this
buy the
video
book for $3.33.
is the simple mathematics that construct the closed circuit of the pneumogram. Okay, so recurring...
I have to point out that he says we're now going to do this. He's at this point during that part of the video.
He hasn't explained anything.
He's also walking through a snowy field and his hair is like all long. The video then cuts. He's in a gym, like what looks to be the back room of a gym. His coat has changed and his hairstyle has completely changed too. Looks like it took him 2 months to figure out the next sentence.
Yeah.
This will happen multiple times throughout this video.
He just kept forgetting that he was doing it.
Yeah.
Is syzygy. So I believe this is originally an astrological term that refers to when two planets are facing each other in alignment. So within the pneumogram, we have 5 syzygies, so spheres that represent numbers that are facing each other. And each of these syzygies adds up to 9. So that's 1 and 8, 2 and 7, 3 and 6, 4 and 5.
Okay. I already explained this, asshole.
Okay, so for the next bit, I need to explain triangular numbers.
Fuck you. This is the clip I used for esoteric rambling in last week's episode.
Yeah.
Hyperstition.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
It was absolutely fucking perfect.
This poor fuck, man. Let's see. This is like 4 minutes. Okay.
And this number is the corresponding triangular number.
What the fuck?
So let's start at the top with the number 3. So what's the third triangular number? 1, 3.
More rambling.
And we need to collapse 2 and 1 into a singular digit.
Jesus Christ, he's into the numerology.
So we have to add the components of 10.
What the fuck?
And 0.
Jesus Christ.
To 1, hence why 7. This arrow points to...
Isn't it so perfect that we pulled the 10 of cups?
I think what he's saying, numbers do things.
No, yes, indeed, numbers do things.
You can make a fun diagram with numbers sometimes.
Oh, yes.
With interesting loops. You can make interesting loops from numbers.
You sure can.
And then you can draw them in the shape of a spinal column.
Yeah.
You fucking weirdos. Holy shit. So, okay, we're closing in on it here. We're really getting somewhere. I did hear an interview with, I think it was the guy that maybe wrote the grimoire that I wouldn't pay the $3.33 for.
Yeah.
Some piece of shit. I did hear him on a podcast saying that you could construct a pneumogram out of anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it could be any other system. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, at least you realized that much. They started talking about summoning demons into his TV set.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, here's the thing about the CCRU. It's a piece of experimental fiction.
Yeah. That is what it is.
Yeah. And taken as that, it's ambitious.
It's pretty cool.
Fucking rad. I like it. I enjoy reading it when I read it as a piece of fiction. The thing about the CCRU is they just kept going. They just kept going into this hyperliteral materialist madness. Like, I haven't touched on this yet, and this is kind of a fair reveal, is that their big hyperstitional eschaton that's plastered all throughout the late 90s writings of the CCRU, the big show, the motherfuck to end all motherfucks. Take a guess as to what it is. We're in the late 90s. Y2K.
That's what I was thinking.
It's fucking
Y2K.
It's fucking Y2K, which they interpret as one of their lemur demons from the pneumogram.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Let me find the passage. I'll read a Landian passage about Y2K here real quick. The midnight of December 31st, 1999 does not coincide with a Christian festival, Christmas, has no historically defensible commemorative relevance, and does not, as Gregorian year, MM, even mark the beginning of a new millennium. Meanwhile, infotechnics is carried out by Y2K into millennial spasms of its own, returning to 00 and digitally erasing the 20th century, reducing data to mumbo-jumbo, jumbo. Since cyberspace dates are incapable of counting above 99, they have surreptitiously installed the first intrinsically apocalyptic calendar in history, unconsciously produced within a planetary electronic registry. Starting from year 0, Y2K condenses out of the mechanomic unconscious and its non-binary calcular functions, attesting to raw decimal delirium indifferent to creed. Post-tribulationist eschatology slides smoothly into Y2K survivalism, orienting its volatile mixture of stockpiling, micro-militia activity, technophobia, and apocalyptic theology towards the self-fulfilling dynamics of millennial threat. Preemptive response produces reality. Panic is creation. The more you know about it, the worse it looks. It has always been integral to capitalist organization that science fiction functions as a factor of production, relating it intimately to panic phenomena. Y2K takes things to a new level as a disaster that comes from the future, scheduled by accident and thus precisely anticipated in time. If it proves effectively eradicable, it is because it is trickling back from the self-confirming inevitability of its occurrence. Something is about to happen, and we know exactly when.
Holy shit. I mean, yeah, people be doing that time and time again. We are always coming up with new dates for the apocalypse, but that one was especially on a mass scale.
Yeah, Y2K produces a traumatic mutation in the information economy involving an explosion of IT emergency services, analysis, debugging, integrated solutions, massively accelerated hardware replacement, global restructuring, and a crisis of confidence in computer-supported services with the potential to run away into general market collapse. It interrupts the smooth upward curve of doubling microprocessor density, falling prices, and increasing market penetration with a singular cyberspace shock that is discontinuous or non-metabolic. In nature, junk shops stack up with prematurely discarded infotechnic hardware, providing the material base for a computer age. Skip scavenging cargo culture. Electronics must be sub-socially recycled to release its frozen machinic potential.
Oh, whoa.
What's...
Whoa.
Yeah. Yatuk is the name of the demon that it is. But here's the thing. It kind of betrays the whole bit, doesn't it? Now that it's the year 2022.
Yeah. I mean, like, it didn't happen.
Right. And in I forget if it's in Thirst for Annihilation or Fanged Noumena. I think it was Thirst for Annihilation. Nick Land, which is written in like 92 or 3. He gives this like set of dates of how the doubling of the fucking eschaton is going to happen. And like, we're supposed to be way past that. Way fucking past that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it didn't have, Y2K didn't fucking, yeah. So no wonder it shit the bed right afterwards, the CCRU. If they had really gone full magician cult with it. Like, no wonder.
Never set a date.
No wonder Nick Land did what every fuck whose eschaton doesn't immanentize does. Double down on madness to the expense and detriment of the original idea. So after resurfacing in 2015, this little fuck went all in on neo-reactionary right-wing politics, with all the smart fuck words to justify how it's not a complete betrayal of the ideas that when they started seemed like nothing more than fun stuff to think about. Like every other fucking pissed off whiny dude who wanted to run a cult, right? Mm-hmm. And his accelerationism now is the right-wing accelerationism of, white nationalist terrorists, right? Like that's what accelerationism has become, and and who latched onto it after Land resurfaced as a neo-reactionary in 2015. Joined forces with Mencius Moldbug, the neo-reactionary quote philosopher.
Mencius
Moldbug.
Yeah.
It's not his real name.
Of course it's not.
And honestly, I see a logical progression from where this all starts in Marxism and postmodernism. If your worldview is essentially materialist, then deconstruction of anything and everything only goes to one place. Mm-hmm. Babbling incoherence, like some fucking fish-worshipping cultist in a Lovecraft story. And in that way, the CCRU was itself a hyperstition. It created babbling, incoherent Lovecraft cultists.
It sure did.
And thus,
I don't know what he thought would happen.
He thought that he didn't know what hyperstition he was telling.
Yeah.
Yeah. In other words, stories do things. And you got to be careful.
Yeah.
We are nothing but the stories we tell ourselves.
Indeed.
10 of Cups. What is it?
Well, so if we look at ourselves as the viewer of the card, looking at the point of view of the picture we're looking at.
Yes.
As if we are there in the frame. It's people on the quote unquote stage.
Yes.
But they're not facing us. We're not in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
We're behind them. We're observing. We could either be a detached presence or...
Well, if it is on a stage, then it is a fictioned story of a happy life, perhaps, that we're looking at and wishing we had.
Could be.
Maybe the 10 of Cups is that, like how the Thoth deck, it's called satiety.
Right.
Imagine you're in a boring marriage and you're sitting in a theater and you're watching a play and this fiction of a better life than you have is on stage and you go, why couldn't I have that? I want to have that. Let me just destroy my family so I can go find that. But it's not real. It's a story that was told.
Also, the finality of how stories can have endings. Whereas you as the viewer, your story hasn't ended.
No.
You keep going. And there's no such thing as like a real sense of finality.
No, it doesn't really exist.
Yeah, we can never reach like the real true meaning either. So when anyone offers us like, this is the meaning of the universe, it's like, well, thank you for that. That's interesting. I'll consider it.
Yeah.
The curtain closes and, that ain't reality.
Yeah. And it's also like, did Nick Land just get trapped in his own performance?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Like we were talking about in the bonus episode, like writing songs that come true.
Right.
And shit, yeah.
Well, it makes me think about Trisha Paytas, who's a YouTuber known for being fucking crazy. And her YouTube bio for the longest time was, I'm Andy Kaufman. She started off her career. She just went on different reality shows. She would do any reality show that she could get on and play the bubbly, blonde, dumb bimbo character that says stupid, outrageous things that pisses people off. But the fact that like one of her first videos was her doing the Mighty Mouse bit that Kaufman did.
Okay.
So there's like, to me, that showed that there is a person there underneath it all that is saying like, this is all an act. But I think she did it for so long that now she's like, Trisha's just fucking crazy now.
Yeah.
She has fully become the character that she was pretending to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you get into habits. If you play one character for a long time.
Yeah.
You pick up.
Especially if that's how you, for her, make millions.
Yeah. And you know, that actually feeds into the idea of systems and cybernetics and how the system has an effect on the observer and participant, which is, in this case, the YouTube actor.
Right.
The performance
and the
affected
YouTube audience.
The performance affected the actor, which affected the performance, which affected the actor, which affected, you know.
Right, because every time she starts to go out of relevancy, it's like, oh, all of a sudden, like, I'm trans or I have PID and I'm, you know, pretending to have all of these mental illnesses and blah, 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 you know. Like, it's it's well crafted to get attention and to get outrage. Like, basically, she's a professional troll because that's kind of what's rewarded in the YouTube algorithm.
Yeah. Nick Land is also a professional troll.
Yeah.
I think he actually believes his bullshit, though.
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah. I listened to half of a 3-hour interview with him by an accelerationist. And that dude, the interviewer even seemed surprised when Nick Land stopped him to correct them that, oh, no, I don't mean freedom like that. I mean, like, freedom from life.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness, sir. My goodness. Yeah, I think like the 10 of Cups, I think there's a sense for me, I think that there's a sense of dissatisfaction with the 10 of Cups.
Definitely.
And I kind of just see that in the CCRU and in a lot of like punk art collectives as well. And I love that shit. Like, I've paid money to see that shit. I'll do it again. I fucking love that shit.
Mm-hmm.
I love weird art. But it comes from this place of dissatisfaction, but in reaction to, you know, in a countercultural reaction, it's not like, well, I'll just work hard for the American dream and then I'll have that too. It's like, no, let me tear down the stage. Let me just break this shit. But it's like, I don't know, maybe just eat better. Stop eating fucking dry pot noodles and amphetamines, dude.
No, but really though.
Yeah, like for real. Like that's what it boils down to for me.
There are some listeners right now that are like, ooh. I
mean, I've done it too.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, hey, what are you going to do? But like, I'm aware it's not I know my thinking's going to get worse.
Yes, for sure.
And I think that's why this episode became harder the more I got into it, because it does just kind of come down to stop eating pot noodles and amphetamines, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you just fucked up your brain. Like, you thought too long and too weird about a certain thing. You made a puzzle. That you made your lost in a maze of your own fucking creation. And the people I'm really mad at is academia in general, because this is all nonsense. Stop calling Nick Land a philosopher. He's a crazy dude. You know?
There you have it.
Yeah.
There you fucking
have it. Okay, that's enough.
Wow. Now we never have to talk about it again.
Oh, I do want to say, we'll talk about hyperstitions again, because I really enjoy that idea.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Like, I do definitely...
too. We will bring that up again.
Yeah. I do definitely enjoy that idea. I definitely think that they're thinking about things that are worth thinking about, but it's not the ideas themselves that drove them crazy. It was the praxis of their becoming.
Yeah.
Fuck it. It was the praxis of their fucking becoming.
Wow, sounding very academic now.
You pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the way they went about it, and just pushing an extreme environment too far. It's just group dynamics. If you had read the cybernetics textbooks, you would have realized that. If you had done the fucking rating. Yeah. Thank you guys for listening, sticking it out with us through this.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Find us on social media.
Yes, please.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, all of those. And if you like what we do, you can support us on Patreon. Only $5 a month to get access to bonus episodes. And this coming Sunday, we're going to do our first monthly live stream.
Yeah,
listener Q&A, hangout. Yeah, it's going to be super fun. So yeah, access to that. And I think there's 3 bonus episodes out now. So hell yeah. Only $5 a month.
Yep.
No more, no less. And thank you to everyone who supported us already. It means the world. And tell your professors.
Tell your dentist.
Tell your dentist. Tell your math equations.
Yeah.
And don't join cults.
Tell your demons.
Tell your demons. God damn it. I'm going to bed.
Yep. That one really tuckered me out.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Peace.